The NFL's domestic violence publicity crisis hits home. We're tracking the Arizona Cardinals' decision in the case of Jonathan Dwyer. Plus, the ACLU released reports critical of the Arizona prison system, and now they have more to add before the upcoming trial against the DOC. And we take an inside look at the efforts to keep young adults from overdoing it, as cases of binge drinking are on the rise. Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News. I'm Annalise Ortiz. Arizona's Cardinals management has distanced itself from running back Jonathan Dwyer today after he was arrested on domestic violence charges. Cronkite News reporter Bethany Reed is here. She has more on this developing story.
We've had a chance to read Jonathan Dwyer's questionnaire, which gives us some insight into the swiftness of the case. Last night, Cardinals took action and deactivated the player from the team. Today, the Cards placed him on the reservation non-football illness list. Former Arizona Cardinals running back Jonathan Dwyer stands before a judge during his initial appearance. This just hours after his arrest on domestic violence charges involving his wife and 18-month-old child. According to police, Dwyer headbutted his wife and broke her nose after she refused his sexual advances, then punched her in the face the next day. The arrest comes as the NFL and its commissioner are under fire over a series of off-the-field incidents of domestic violence involving star players like Ray Rice, Adrian Peterson, and Greg Hardy. But the difference in the eyes of some today is how the Cardinals handled the situation.
You see teams losing sponsorships like the Vikings. Let's just separate him, not cut him. You know, give him his chance to defend himself. I thought they handled it well.
It's an unfortunate situation, but the Cardinals took decisive action. They took it very quickly, unlike some of the other NFL teams. Radisson
Hotels pulled their sponsorship from the Vikings over the team's handlings of the Peterson case, but SRP is standing by the Cardinals.
In this case, what we have is a Cardinals football player is arrested. The team determines that it would be better off if he's deactivated for this weekend's game, and we think that that's a prudent approach.
And at least one season ticket holder says if the team hadn't taken the action they did with Dwyer, his loyalty could have been affected.
There's got to be a line, you know, between being a sports fan and just being a decent human being. And yeah, it definitely would impact me negatively.
Dwyer faces aggravated assault charges and is now out on a $25,000 bond. The Cardinals also cut practice squad player Chris Rainey, who also has a police record of misdemeanor stalking and was accused of slapping his girlfriend in 2013.
Thank you so much for that report, Bethany. We now turn to Morgan Chan to tell us more about the community impact of the Cardinals' decision. Morgan, now apart from what the team itself is doing, why are so many NFL players getting in trouble with domestic violence now?
Well, actually, Annalise, domestic violence in the NFL has been a serious problem for a really long time now. It's just finally being recognized. I think we're seeing a cultural shift in the sports world where players are now going to be prosecuted for domestic violence against their spouses and their children. The Arizona Coalition to End Sexual and Domestic Violence says that this policy is going to move us towards a much more organized and better National Football League.
Right, and now what does the general public think about the Cardinals and Dwyer? Do they think it's being handled appropriately?
Yeah, absolutely. The problem with Ray Rice and the Ravens is that he was only suspended for 2 games before they finally changed their minds to something more serious. With Dwyer, on the other hand, it was immediate. He was put on the deactivated list immediately. Activists say that even though he's still being paid part of his salary while on the deactivated list, they're still happy about this decision because they think the Cardinals have made the right decision. Live from the Media Center, Morgan Chan, Cronkite News.
Now we're tracking a developing story right now at Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport. The entire airport is on lockdown as police search for a shooting suspect. Authorities have 1 suspect in custody, but 2 suspects had bailed out of a car following a high-speed chase that led to the airport. We have a Cronkite News crew on the way to the airport right now, and we'll bring you a live update as soon as it's available. Now, Valley emergency rooms are seeing more cases of binge drinking. As Mackenzie Scott reports, Tempe's Safe and Sober campaign may be over, but it hasn't stopped students from drinking too much.
With school back in session, students will be hitting the books and the bars. But students over 21 won't be the only ones drinking. And some of them may get an education off campus. Lisa Moody, clinical director of Sage Counseling, says she's talking to more clients who may have been binge drinking.
In the last year, I've seen the alcohol levels be much higher than they ever have been. Into the 0.2, 0.25, 0.28 for 18, 19-year-olds is a lot.
The Tempe St. Luke's emergency room director, Janet Backer, says people seeking medical treatment for drinking have something in common.
We have seen trends a long time with 90% of the consumption is usually under 21 years of age. And most all of them, you know, come in with some form of alcohol poisoning, over excessive drinking, all kinds of effects.
When a female consumes 4 or a male drinks 5 alcoholic beverages, it's considered binge drinking. About 88,000 deaths per year are due to alcohol-related incidents, according to the National Institute of Health. Moody says young adults often aren't thinking about the impact of their actions.
For them, consequences, it just isn't a big, like they're not thinking about, geez, if I get 4 minor consumptions and a DUI, that's going to impact me at some point in the future. They're not thinking that. They're kind of in the moment.
Excessive drinking can affect people in both the short and long term.
There is a higher incidence of stroke, 10 times more incidence of stroke with people who have binge drank versus nonstop drinking.
Binge drinking at any age may continue, but Moody believes that students take the lessons she teaches to heart.
I think education works for kids who just got caught once. They don't want to be in the trouble with the law anymore. They don't want to get kicked out of school. So education does make an impact on people.
In Tempe, Mackenzie Scott, Cronkite News.
And binge drinking doesn't just affect young adults. About 70% of people who do it are over the age of 26. More than $300 million could soon be flowing back into Arizona public schools. The state Supreme Court has ordered Arizona to repay public schools immediately for underfunding them during the recession. Now, I went to one local school district that could benefit from extra dollars in the classroom. For some students at Scottsdale Unified School District, classes like Miss Frederick's music class are the highlight of their days. Out of all of the classes you take at Hopi, which one's your favorite?
Music and art.
But due to a loss of funds, SUSD has scaled back the amount of specials. Classes like music, art, and PE.
It's kind of disappointing because I really like coming to music because we get to do fun things, and Miss Frederick's a great teacher.
Okay. Can you hear how the metallophone sounds different?
These students used to see Miss Frederick twice a week, and now
The children that I just had, I have every 10 days.
Students here at Hopi Elementary are already feeling the effects of cutbacks to their specials classes. But it won't be until January until any discussion of bringing funds back to the district will be ringing throughout the state capitol. With the start of the new legislative session, lawmakers will discuss how they will pay their bill. More than $300 million is due immediately. Within the next 5 years, more than $1 billion.
I don't think that there will be enough dollars to add this bill on top of them. So there will have to be some juggling.
The state failed to follow a voter-approved proposition that required they adjust for inflation when funding education. But for SUSD, a proposition on the November ballot could bring even more money back to the schools.
If that override is successful, those dollars will also be used to bring back the arts.
Meaning these students could soon be making more music more often. Now, if that budget override is passed by voters in November, SUSD tells Cronkite News they'll also look into reducing class sizes and raising teacher salaries. Mesa Unified and Tempe Elementary School Districts also have a budget override on the ballot this November. Let's go now to Darby Fitzgerald with what's coming up on Cronkite News.
It's a tax up for debate every year, and how to keep funding services in Arizona parks and public lands. We'll take you live to the Capitol. And later, we'll see how the city of Phoenix plans to find money to keep its mountain trails up and running for the long hiking season ahead.
brothers and sisters, can you tell me where to go?
The women were breaking the glass ceiling.
That just thrilled me. We're traveling back in time to help solve family mysteries. No.
Wait, that's
Amazing.
a new deal for the American people.
We wouldn't be who we are without them.
I just gotta get on back to my home at any cost.
Who were the people that got us from there?
A world without glass, clean drinking water, time, or light.
To here.
These were hobbyists, garage inventors, and obsessive tinkerers. These are people who actually made the modern world, who set off an amazing chain reaction of ideas.
It's the story of How We Got to Now with Stephen Johnson, coming in October, only on PBS.
I'm standing up for myself and for other people like me.
Wow.
This is a bit odd.
Are you okay?
It's kind of insane, but in a good way.
Welcome back to Cronkite News. Arizona elected officials are in Washington today to tell Congress the current system of financial aid for states, like ours, with large amounts of federal land, is broken. Lawmakers from several states joined Arizonans to support more consistent funding for payment in lieu of taxes, also called the PILT program. Reporter Brittany Bate is in our Washington bureau with the latest.
$34.5 million. That's how much Arizona's counties would lose if the federal government fails to create funding for the PILT program. Now, without that money, Arizona counties would be forced to make significant cuts to programs like law enforcement and search and rescue.
What happens if you're out hiking, you call 911 and you get an answering machine?
Imagine being in desperate need of help, but you're forced to leave a message.
Because the county went from 40 hours a week to 32 hours a week.
Program cuts like this threaten all of Arizona's counties.
You can't stop the bleeding on something like this because the PILT funding is such an integral part of our budgets.
The PILT program, designed to help counties pay for federal land upkeep within its lines, is debated in Congress every year.
It's uncertain.
Which leaves counties questioning if the aid money will make it into the yearly budget.
You know, it's a constant struggle to let people know what it's like for rural counties that depend on that.
Representative Ann Kirkpatrick is one of several lawmakers fighting for consistent, long-term funding.
We really need to have the stability and security of knowing that we're going to have that funding year after year.
13 of Arizona's 15 counties get more than $1 million a year from the PILT program, an amount that some could not survive without.
Some counties, they will definitely go bankrupt if they don't get it.
So last year, during the congressional budget debates, the funding for the PILT program was originally left out, and that's why states like Arizona with large amounts of federal land are fighting harder this year for consistent long-term funding. Live in Washington, D.C., Brittany Bade, Cronkite News.
Also in Washington, national civil rights groups are calling out Arizona's prison system for how it treats inmates, especially those with mental illness. Cronkite News reporter Stephen Hicks spoke with the ACLU about its complaints.
In Arizona, we think the problem is so severe and so pervasive, and frankly, that people are losing their lives, that something had to be done, and it had to be done now.
That problem is allegedly poor treatment of prisoners by the Arizona Department of Corrections, and the something is an American Civil Liberties Union lawsuit against the state prisons scheduled to begin next month. In advance of that court case, the ACLU released a report this week that it says documents the, quote, fundamentally broken healthcare system that it said includes incidents of neglect treating illness and injury, as well as the prison's destructive use of solitary confinement.
What they found was some of the most severe, environmentally deprived, socially isolating conditions anywhere in the country.
The ACLU claims that the Department of Corrections used solitary confinement on mentally ill prisoners. That's something human rights experts, including the Human Rights Committee, the Committee Against Torture, and the UN Rapporteur on Torture, all agree is a violation of their basic human rights.
It's
completely destructive. It's like denying someone air.
Now, I reached out to state corrections officials, and they said in a statement that they strongly dispute the accuracy of the ACLU's paid witnesses and that they will present their own witnesses and testimonies in court, which they say will provide a clear picture of inmate health care. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Stephen Hicks, Cronkite News.
Yahaira Hawkins is in the media center with what's next. We're tracking some Phoenix Changemakers here on Cronkite News. A leader in public health wins a big award for his work on behalf of Arizona's newborns. Plus, a fresh face makes his conducting debut at Phoenix Symphony Hall. Welcome back to Cronkite News. Today, Arizona Department of Health Services Director Will Humble received the first ever Newborn Screening Quality Award from the March of Dimes. Humble and the department worked to improve turnaround times for newborn screening tests because Arizona was not performing very well. These tests are crucial because they can help to prevent potentially deadly genetic or metabolic disorders.
One of the things that we are so proud about this quality improvement process is that we're really improving outcomes for babies, not just today, but for the future in Arizona. Okay.
Now Humble says there won't be any unnecessary delays between the testing and the lab analysis, which is critical to identify in the first few days of life. A young Meister is making his debut at the Phoenix Symphony. Reporter Megan Guthrie caught up with him before tomorrow's opening night for the new symphony season.
It looks and sounds awfully quiet at Symphony Hall, but behind these closed doors, something special is happening.
Music does change the world. It is all the time, actually. It's the only thing we have that kind of brings us together.
With the flick of his wrist and the tapping of his feet, Tito Munoz takes the stage for the first time.
And today, finally, is the first time I've even seen the orchestra, so it's just been kind of me getting antsy and a lot of anticipation.
That's because after a 2-year search, the native New Yorker is taking on a new title.
Well, it is Tito time, and this is the inaugural weekend of our new Virginia G. Piper music director, Tito Munoz.
The 31-year-old doesn't let his youth define him.
I think for me, the most effective way for me to deal with that has been really just not to think about it and just sort of do the work and do what I have to do.
He does understand his generation, and I think that is very important as we begin to evolve and better serve our community.
This weekend, Munoz conducts Carmina Burana.
The first time I ever sat in an orchestra concert, it really affected me in a huge way. Just the sound, seeing an orchestra live and hearing what 100 people on stage can produce.
Now, a new audience has a chance to be swept away as the season begins at Symphony Hall. In Phoenix, Megan Guthrie, Cronkite News.
Munoz says he is already making plans for next season. But for those of you looking for something to do this Friday, the Phoenix Symphony Chorus and the Phoenix Boys Choir will also perform. Back to Annalise Ortiz in the Broadcast Center with more when Cronkite News returns. We're checking out who got the brunt of the storm from the remnants of Hurricane Odile.
News doesn't stop on Friday at 7:30 at night. PBS NewsHour Weekend is kind of a natural next step. The NewsHour's been committed to being available on air or online, and now weekdays or weekends. There's no shortage of news that's out there, but why do people come to us? To give them some context and analysis that they can't find somewhere else.
PBS NewsHour Weekend, only on PBS. Check local listings.
These extraordinary Americans all share one thing in common, a past they never knew until now.
It's incredible.
In his new season on PBS, Henry Louis Gates Jr. helps them uncover the truth about where they come from.
I can't believe these documents even exist.
Wow. Get to know them as they discover who they really are.
That's pretty amazing.
Finding Your Roots with Henry Louis Gates Jr. starts Tuesday, September 23rd at 8, 7 Central, only on PBS.
I'm free. I'm free. And freedom tastes of reality.
Our blue Arizona skies returned today as the remnants of Hurricane Odile turned southeast. Jamie Warren is tracking the path in the Weather Center. How's it look, Jamie?
Well, the rain hit hardest along the Arizona border yesterday, leaving flooding last night in towns like Nogales. Mayor Arturo Guarino says the street flooding was 5 and 6 inches deep before it receded. And the story got worse in Texas. Here's a look at the street flooding in Lubbock. There were reports of water rescues and stranded cars from El Paso to Austin. One sheriff's deputy was reportedly swept away by flash floods in Travis County, Texas. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the satellite radar behind me to get a little bit of an idea of what exactly we're talking about here. Because of all these flash floods, Phoenix isn't really experiencing any of that moisture anymore, but it's making its way now through New Mexico and into Texas, and that's what's causing all of those heavy rains and floods. But here in the valley, hey, we're looking pretty nice. Currently 94 degrees, humidity's at 36%, dew points at 63, and for the rest of the state, well, 82 down in Tucson, 104 in Yuma, up north a little bit, 70 in Flagstaff, 84 in Winslow, 76 at the Grand Canyon. And tonight, we're gonna dip down just a little bit cooler, 82 degrees, slight chance of thunderstorms, but this weekend, it should be pretty nice out there. Only 10% or 20% chance of rain on Friday and Saturday. And we're gonna be in the upper 90s all the way until Tuesday. So should be a pretty fun weekend. Go out there, maybe do something fun, spend some time outside, or maybe even go for a hike. Well, right now, the city of Phoenix relies on volunteers to maintain the trails. So I took a look at how the city's looking for ways to pay for the maintenance of some of its most popular parks.
Buenos dias.
Nick Palomares hikes Piestewa Peak every morning. And has for the past 3 decades.
This is the one that I enjoy the most.
Nick says hiking has kept him in good health.
Not only physically, but also mentally.
And he enjoys the community that has formed over time.
Have a wonderful day. Take care.
Over 1 million hikers lace up their shoes and park their cars and take to the Echo Canyon, Cholla, and Piestewa trails each year.
But after all these years and all these feet, some of the trails are starting to erode, causing some safety concerns for hikers in the area.
In fact, the city's trails face a number of problems.
Litter, vandalism, amount of people.
The suggestion of adding parking meters to help maintain them was quickly shot down. And now the city's left looking for new ways to earn the trails more money.
We're budgeted to have rangers on the trail. We're not budgeted, we don't have a specific line item for trail renovation.
To pay for the trail maintenance, one Phoenix City Council member has a plan that could impact another city recreation area. Phoenix's public golf courses.
Maybe we should look at selling these courses to people who actually know how to make them work better. And they can still be golf courses, but there's certainly a market for golf, and maybe somebody can do it better.
Although he says he's the only council member who's suggested this measure so far. For now, hikers like Nick will continue enjoying the trails.
Just sit down and enjoy the view.
And hope that the city will soon have a clearer view when it comes to paying for these popular parks. In Phoenix, I'm Jamie Warren, Cronkite News.
If you're just joining us, we're following a developing story at Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport. The airport is under lockdown in Terminal 4. Phoenix police just held a news conference asking any passengers behind security checkpoints to call 911 if you see any suspicious activity. Authorities have one suspect in custody, but 2 suspects had bailed out of a car following a high-speed chase that led to the airport. We have a crew on the way right now. We will continue to monitor these events throughout the evening. You can stay updated on our website. That's cronkitenewsonline.com. For now, that's it for Cronkite News. Thank you so much for joining us. Good night.